we have arrived at part 3 of the chicken nutrition series. So today we are talking about all the things chickens can eat that are not in a bag of feed from the feed store. So we're going to look at kitchen scraps, we're going to look at greens from the garden or from the store, and we're going to look at pasture forage, things that they can eat and find out for themselves. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to make mini scale silage so that you can store the abundant grass and clover and things that grow in the spring or the autumn and save it for either the summer or the winter time. I mentioned in the first episode of this series that I personally don't think that absolutely everything chickens need can be found in a bag of feed from the store, because there are just things that we might not even know about yet that need to be had from fresh fruit and vegetables and grasses and things that really should be part of a chicken's diet. So that's what we're talking about today. And the first thing is kitchen scraps, because everybody has kitchen scraps and that's pretty much the standard thing that you feed your chickens, at least here in New Zealand. Like half the reason people have chickens sometimes is to eat up the kitchen scraps. Now I have done a whole video all about what can chickens eat, which goes into more detail on this, but just as a little overview, you can feed your chickens kitchen scraps, particularly if those scraps are mostly fruits and vegetables from preparing your own meals, if it's from like plate scrapings from meals that you've made, if it's like crusts of bread, things like that. If your kitchen scraps tend to be more like processed foods or very sweet things, if there's cakes and biscuits and things, then maybe your chickens shouldn't have too much of the processed stuff, because just like people, salt, fat, sugar is not super great for chickens in large quantities. So just be sensible about what you're feeding your chickens and avoid any very artificial foods with artificial sweeteners and colors and things like that. Just basically the things you want to be careful about when you're feeding your toddlers, be careful about feeding that to chickens as well. I think it's really important for chickens, well, for people as well, but for chickens, because that's what we're talking about today, to eat greens. So I like to grow in the garden just green leafy things that the chickens like to eat. This is just some cabbage that has gotten a bit old and a bit insect nibbled, so this is what goes to the chickens. And you don't have to grow it, you can buy it. Don't go out buying super expensive stuff. Find what is sort of in the bargain bin, or make sure you get things that are in season. You don't want to be buying super expensive lettuce if it's not lettuce season just for your chickens. But it has lots and lots of nutrients for your flock, good for their gut health, all of these things, and it keeps it interesting for them. They don't want to always eat the same thing every day, just like we don't want to eat the same thing every day. So pretty soon I'm going to do a video about starting seeds, and it's coming into the perfect time to get your leafy greens growing, even if you can just do it in a pot or just a small space. They're easy to grow, they grow quickly, and your chickens are going to absolutely love them. My chickens love them. It is what they try and pilfer out of my gardens the most. Anything that grows up close to the barrier gets trimmed right back to the garden barrier, and they have a lot of fun getting in and eating those green leafy vegetables. So for me, what I like to grow for the flock are lots of brassicas. So that's things like kale, cabbage, bok choy. They love that. They're easy to grow. And of course, it depends on where in the world you are as to what things are going to be easy for you to grow. They enjoy lettuces. I mean, I don't give them the whole beautiful lettuce. They get the outer leaves and the damaged bits and the bits that I've chopped off after we've eaten it. That's what they get. They like silver beet, which is also called Swiss chard, like all of these things that they really like. Beet greens, they love that. And you can also grow things for them like carrots and turnips and swedes, because they really like root vegetables as well, but you may find that they need those a bit cooked. It depends on how fussy your flock is, but carrots and things are usually pretty cheap, And if you're in the middle of winter and just trying to find some entertainment for your flock if they can't get out and roam around because it's cold or there's snow everywhere, a carrot or a turnip or a parsnip just hung up in their coop or their run is going to really keep them happy and amused for quite some time. Another excellent strategy for getting variety into your chicken's diet is to have a worm farm, and once it's up and running and full of worms, to feed those worms to your chickens. Just scoop a big handful of worms and whatever else is in the worm bin out and give it to your chickens. They're going to love it. That's a great strategy if you can't let your chickens have a large area to roam around in. I have worm farms. I don't tend to feed the worms to the chickens specifically. They get them occasionally because the chickens here, they roam everywhere. They can find their own worms. They can dig worms up from their composting chicken run, so they're pretty covered. But if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of space, then absolutely having a worm farm or multiple worm farms will help your chickens get entertainment from eating living things, which they do enjoy doing. And it's one of the easiest ways to get protein into your chicken's diet if they don't have access to a large place to roam around where they can catch their own bugs. And it's pretty cheap to have a worm farm, and you can produce a lot of worms that way, and that can actually add up to be quite a significant portion of the protein intake for your chicken's diet. One of the most important components in my chicken's diet after their regular meal times is foraging. So it is the grasses, the legumes, so there's clover, there's all sorts of things in the lawn which I maintain as a pasture for the chickens. They have so much food that they can roam around and gobble. And forage, which is grasses, legumes, herbs, and all sorts of things, whatever's growing in the ground, can form up to 20% of a chicken's diet. So in the springtime and the autumn, or in a wet summer like we've just had here, it can form quite a large amount of what they're eating, which means my bagged feed costs go down while they have access to lots of forage. And I can tell that they're eating quite a bit of it because the consistency of their poop changes and it goes quite green and bulky from all the fiber. So they're getting a lot of their diet from the grass and the clover and whatever else they're finding. They change what they like to eat constantly, so I don't ever really know. Now, I do understand that not everyone can just let their chickens have free roam of the lawn constantly. So I have a strategy for preserving the lush, abundant springtime grass and clover growth so that it can be preserved and fed to the flock when there is less grass available. And that is to make small-scale silage. So what I have here is a vacuum seal bag, just like you would use to store pillows or blankets or clothing. And I have filled it up with grass. I'm going to go over the whole thing in a moment. But what it does is it basically pickles the grass. So it's preserved by a lactic acid, a no oxygen present preservation. So it's pickled. It is pickled grass and clover right here. And the chickens are not that interested in it when they have heaps and heaps of grass and clover available to them fresh. But in the winter, they love this stuff. They can't get enough of it. They think it's delicious. I can't speak for your chicken flock. You might have to introduce it slowly if they've never seen it before, but they will probably like it. You can also do the same thing to feed guinea pigs or rabbits or goats or sheep, because you can make it on, it's a small scale, like this is just a vacuum cleaner bag, and when you suck it down with the vacuum cleaner, it goes really, really small. And it only takes 2 to 3 weeks to be ready to go. 3 weeks on the safe side, but I've had it ready to go in 2 weeks. So let's talk about, like, what is this? How am I making it? when you're preserving grass and whatever else you're mowing up for chickens, it needs to be in small chopped up pieces. So I find a regular rotary lawnmower, just the type that most people have and use to mow their lawn, is the perfect thing to make chopped up little pieces of grass. If you are preserving it for larger animals like sheep and goats or cows, then you can use a scythe and cut it long like hay. But for chickens, it needs to be in chopped up little pieces so they can actually eat it. So here I have grass clippings I just caught them while I was mowing the lawn, and that is what I'm going to use. You can leave them out to dry and wilt down. You can use them fresh. I've tried all sorts of different ways. It all works out. So don't get too bogged down in the specifics. So I have a medium-sized bag here, and you're just going to fill it with the grass clippings. So it's a really scalable situation depending on how big your lawn is, how many chickens you have, how much grass is growing, and how quickly. You can choose a giant vacuum bag. This is a medium-sized one, so it's really scalable, which makes it really easy, because the problem with feeding silage in small amounts is you usually can't buy it in small amounts. And once you've opened it, once you've broken the seal, you need to either reseal it or use it within a couple of days, which of course is challenging if all you need is a couple of handfuls a day for your chicken flock. If you buy some, it's going to go bad long before you have finished it. Okay, so you want to fill the bag up quite a lot, but making sure that you can still seal it once you've got it full, which has taken me a little bit to work out exactly where the fill line is for it. So you want to seal the top. It's going to get a lot smaller than this. So do bear in mind, if you fill up a really big bag, that it's going to be quite heavy. It's going to take up not very much space, but it's going to be heavy. And then, just like if you were putting away your pillows or your winter blankets after winter time, you're going to suck the air out. So we'll get that on. So it gets a lot smaller. And what's going to happen, you want to put this in somewhere where it's not going to get too much sunshine on it, so like in the back of a shed or something like that. And as it goes through the process, it's going to off-gas carbon dioxide. So it's going to go from being all squished in like this to starting to expand out, and then you just want to come back with your vacuum cleaner and suck that carbon dioxide back out again. And once it stops doing that, you know it is done. It will stay pretty much compressed. Don't be too worried if it decompresses a little bit. So long as the top is sealed and you've sucked the air out, that's it. It's ready to go. Now it'll go a brown color when it's finished. And to use it, so just like this bag I have here, which I have open, you take out the amount that you want to use. You can take out a couple of days worth if it's not only a couple of days worth in the bag size. Like this bag here would be like a couple of weeks for my flock feeding them this. So you take what you want out, a couple of days worth. You want to reseal the bag once you've got what you want and suck the air out of it again. And then that will keep it from going bad, and then it can essentially just keep going. You can open it, take it out, close it back up, suck it down. It's gonna stay good. Which also keeps it quite easy to store because it's small, doesn't take up much space, and there is a lot of grass packed in here. So it's very, very space efficient, much more space efficient than hay or something like that. And the chickens can eat it. It's in little pieces, they can gobble it up. And even if they don't eat all of it, it is super amusing to them to be able to scratch around in it and pick out what they want. You'll end up with like little bits of grass seed and things in here that they can find. So if nothing else, it's an absolutely great enrichment activity for them as they get used to how it looks and tastes and smells, and they'll eventually start gobbling it up and be very happy for a winter treat. I just want to make a note that if you haven't ever smelled silage before, that silage does have quite a distinctive smell because it is pickled grass, so it smells pickly. And that is totally fine, but it is a distinctive smell. So just keep that in mind when you open your bag up. It is going to smell like silage, and you want to be a little bit careful when you're feeding it, depending on where you need to go after you feed it, because it's a smell that can linger. So if you're throwing it to them in the morning when you're dressed for work and then you're going to race off to work, maybe that's not the best time. Maybe the evening is better where you can wash your hands and change your shirt. So just keep that in mind. It does smell like silage.